I want to start with a simple question. Why do we chase the things that run away from us? It's a pattern we see over and over again. A man meets a woman as she's captivating, mysterious, but most importantly, emotionally distant. And suddenly, he's hooked. He thinks about her constantly, analyzes every interaction, waits for her to reply, and when she does, even if it's just breadcrumbs, he feels a rush of excitement. Men have always been drawn to the things they cannot have. It is a paradox as old as time. Human psychology, hardwired into the way our minds process reward, risk, and attraction. Attraction, at its core, is fueled by anticipation. The brain doesn't release dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and motivation. When we obtain something easily, it releases dopamine in the pursuit of it. This is why men find themselves obsessing over emotionally distant women. When something is rare, it is perceived as more valuable. This simple yet powerful concept, known as the scarcity principle, applies not just to economics or luxury goods but also to human relationships. In the realm of attraction and desire, emotional detachment creates a sense of scarcity that can make a person appear more desirable. When affection, attention, and validation are given in limited supply, the human mind instinctively assigns them greater worth. This is why emotionally unavailable individuals often become the focal point of intense attraction, because their love feels like something that must be earned rather than something freely given. The brain is wired to seek what is difficult to obtain. In relationships, this means that when one person is emotionally distant or inconsistent, the other person often feels an intensified need to secure their affection. This is not always a conscious choice, rather, it is a psychological response to the fear of loss. When something seems uncertain, the mind perceives it as being at risk of disappearing, which increases its perceived value. This is why men, in particular, often find themselves drawn to women who exhibit emotional detachment. The unpredictability of their responses creates an addictive cycle of hope and doubt, reinforcing the belief that if they try just a little harder, they will eventually win her over. The scarcity principle is closely tied to the concept of intermittent reinforcement. This is the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. When rewards are unpredictable, they become far more compelling. If a woman is consistently warm and affectionate, her attention is appreciated but not necessarily obsessed over. However, if she is unpredictably sometimes loving, sometimes distant, every moment of warmth becomes more significant. The uncertainty of whether or not she will reciprocate affection creates a heightened emotional investment, leading the pursuer to
The human brain is wired for patterns, rewards, and reinforcement. At the core of our motivation and pleasure systems lies dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in how we experience desire, anticipation, and reward. Security.
Power in relationships is often dictated by who cares less. This is an uncomfortable truth, but one that plays out time and time again. When one person is emotionally invested while the other remains detached, a fundamental imbalance occurs. The person who is more invested naturally finds themselves in a position of vulnerability, while the one who withholds affection and remains unpredictable holds control. This is how emotional detachment becomes a powerful tool, whether consciously or unconsciously use it to shift the dynamics of attraction in favor of the person who appears least affected.
Men are naturally wired to seek challenges. From an early age, they are taught that success comes through effort, persistence, and overcoming obstacles. Whether in sports, careers, or personal goals, the idea that hard work leads to reward is deeply ingrained. This mentality extends into relationships, where men often see emotionally distant women not as a sign of incompatibility, but as a challenge to be conquered. Instead of recognizing emotional detachment as a red flag, they interpret it as an invitation to prove themselves worthy. At the heart of this dynamic is the male ego. When a woman is emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or difficult to read, a man's instinct is often to figure her out. He convinces himself that if he can just say the right thing, do the right thing, or show enough patience, she will eventually open up. The chase becomes a test of his value, his ability to break through her walls, and his worth as a man. In many cases, he does not even realize that he has stopped focusing on whether the relationship is fulfilling for him. Instead, he becomes consumed by the idea of winning her over as if her emotional distance is a puzzle he must solve. This obsession is reinforced by the idea that rare things are valuable. If a woman is affectionate and emotionally available, a man may appreciate her, but he may not assign the same level of significance to the relationship. However, when a woman is emotionally detached, her love feels like a scarce resource, something exclusive and difficult to obtain. This illusion of scarcity makes her seem more desirable, not because she is necessarily a better match, but because the challenge of earning her affection boosts a man's sense of achievement. The more she withholds, the more he feels that finally breaking through to her will validate his worth. Society also plays a role in shaping this mindset. Many cultural narratives and romantic stories glorify the idea of men saving emotionally unavailable women. The trope of the cold, distant woman who eventually softens in the arms of the right man is deeply embedded in movies, books, and media. Men absorb these messages and internalize the belief that if they just try hard enough, they can be the exception, the one who changes her. This feeds the ego-driven belief that persistence is proof of strength, and walking away from the challenge feels like failure. But the truth is, emotional detachment is rarely about the man chasing. More often than not, it is rooted in personal experiences, fears, or a simple lack of interest. No amount of effort can force someone to be emotionally available if they are not ready or willing. Yet many men struggle to accept this reality because doing so would mean confronting their own ego. It is easier to believe that more effort will eventually lead to success than to admit that their investment may never be reciprocated. The real danger of this mindset is that it keeps men trapped in an endless cycle of chasing validation. Instead of seeking relationships that offer mutual emotional investment, they pursue those that make them feel like they have something to prove. This often leads to frustration, disappointment, and emotional exhaustion. The longer they stay in these situations, the harder it becomes to recognize that love should not be a reward for persistence. It should be freely given. Breaking free from this pattern requires a shift in perspective. A man must recognize that his value is not determined by whether he can make an emotionally distant woman open up. True connection does not require constant effort to earn someone's affection. Instead of seeing emotional detachment as a challenge, men must learn to prioritize relationships where love and emotional availability are mutual. Real strength lies not in chasing what is unattainable, but in walking away from situations that do not offer the respect, care, and emotional security they deserve. Attraction is not random. It follows a deeply ingrained blueprint, shaped by millions of years of evolution and reinforced by psychological mechanisms that influence human behavior. While people often believe that love and attraction are purely emotional experiences, they are, in many ways, guided by biology, subconscious patterns, and survival instincts. Understanding why people are drawn to certain traits, behaviors, and relationship dynamics requires looking beyond personal preference and into the evolutionary and psychological forces at play. At its core, attraction is driven by the need to survive and reproduce. In ancestral times, humans relied on their ability to choose mates who would increase their chances of passing on their genes successfully. This is why certain qualities, such as confidence, emotional stability, and social status, remain attractive across cultures and generations. These traits signal security, strength, and the ability to provide or nurture, which were essential for survival in early human societies. Even in modern relationships where survival is no longer as directly linked to mate selection, these instincts remain embedded in the subconscious mind. One of the most powerful psychological forces behind attraction is the concept of social proof. People tend to desire what others find valuable. This is why individuals who are perceived as high status, desirable, or difficult to attain often attract more attention. The scarcity principle plays a role here. When something is not easily available, its perceived value increases. This is why emotional detachment can create a sense of heightened attraction. When someone is distant or unpredictable, their attention feels more exclusive, making them seem more valuable. It is not necessarily the person themselves that creates the attraction, but the psychological effect of their limited availability. Dopamine, the brain's pleasure and reward chemical, also plays a crucial role in attraction. It is not released when a goal is achieved, but rather during the pursuit of it. This is why people often become obsessed with relationships that feel uncertain. The unpredictability of a person's affection, whether they will respond, show interest, or pull away, keeps the brain engaged in an addictive cycle. This mechanism is the same one that drives gambling addictions. The intermittent reinforcement of occasional rewards keeps the individual invested, hoping that the next moment will bring the desired outcome. From an evolutionary standpoint, men and women have developed different attraction triggers based on their historical roles. Men are often drawn to physical beauty and youth, as these traits historically signaled fertility and good health. Women, on the other hand, tend to be attracted to confidence, social status, and stability, as these qualities historically indicated a strong ability to provide and protect. While modern society has evolved past these primal survival needs, these attraction triggers remain deeply rooted in human psychology. Another key factor in attraction is the attachment system, which forms early in childhood and shapes how individuals connect with others. Those who experience inconsistent emotional support growing up may develop anxious attachment styles, leading them to seek partners who trigger the same feelings of unpredictability they experienced in childhood. This is why some people are drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. It feels familiar even if it is unhealthy. Conversely, those with secure attachment styles tend to seek stable, reciprocated affection and are less likely to fall into the cycle of chasing emotional detachment. Understanding attraction through psychology and evolution helps explain why people repeatedly find themselves drawn to the same types of partners, even when those relationships do not serve them. The key to breaking unhealthy patterns is awareness. Once individuals recognize that attraction is not just about personal preference, but also about deep-rooted instincts and learned behaviors, they can make conscious choices about the relationships they pursue. True connection is not about scarcity, unpredictability, or ego-driven pursuits. It is about mutual respect, emotional security, and the willingness to build something real beyond the limitations of evolutionary programming. Men are often taught that effort leads to success. From an early age, they learn that persistence, hard work, and dedication result in achievement, whether in school, sports, or their careers. This mindset creates a strong connection between effort and progress, reinforcing the belief that if they keep pushing forward, they will eventually get the results they want. While this approach is effective in many areas of life, relationships do not operate under the same rules. Yet many men mistakenly believe that if they just try hard enough, they can fix an emotionally distant partner, earn someone's love, or turn an unstable relationship into a fulfilling one. This is the illusion of control, the false belief that their efforts alone can change the outcome of a relationship. Attraction and emotional connection are not things that can be forced or earned through persistence. Unlike a business deal or a sports competition, relationships are built on mutual willingness and emotional availability. But when a man encounters emotional resistance, whether in the form of detachment, mixed signals, or disinterest, his instinct is often to work harder. He convinces himself that if he can just say the right thing, be more patient, or prove his worth, the emotionally distant person will eventually come around. Every small sign of affection is seen as progress, reinforcing the belief that his efforts are paying off. This mindset is particularly common in relationships where one person is emotionally unavailable or inconsistent. When a woman withdraws, delays responses, or sends mixed signals, a man who has fallen into the illusion of control interprets these behaviors as challenges rather than indicators of incompatibility. Instead of recognizing the detachment as a sign to step back, he assumes that if he just puts in more effort, she will eventually reciprocate. The unpredictability keeps him emotionally invested, making him believe that he is getting closer to the goal, even when he is simply stuck in a cycle of uncertainty. This psychological trap is driven by intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. When rewards are given sporadically and unpredictably, the brain assigns them greater value. In relationships, this means that when affection is occasionally given by someone who is usually distant, it feels even more significant. The man mistakes these rare moments of warmth as evidence that his efforts are working, rather than seeing them for what they often are, temporary fluctuations rather than lasting change. Another factor that fuels the illusion of control is the ego. Many men see emotional distance as a personal challenge rather than a boundary. The idea that they can be the one to fix someone, break through emotional walls, or win over a detached partner becomes a test of their value. Walking away from the situation would feel like admitting defeat, so instead, they keep investing more time and energy, hoping that persistence will eventually be rewarded. Unfortunately, this often leads to emotional exhaustion, frustration, and self-doubt, as they fail to see that they are chasing an illusion rather than building a genuine connection. Breaking free from this cycle requires a shift in perspective. The truth is, no amount of effort can change a relationship that is fundamentally unbalanced. Love and emotional investment must come willingly from both sides. Instead of trying to control the outcome by working harder, Men must recognize when they are being led by the illusion of progress rather than real compatibility. Letting go of the need to win someone over is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of self-respect. Real relationships are built on mutual effort, not one-sided persistence. Understanding this distinction is the key to breaking free from the illusion of control and seeking relationships where love flows naturally, without force or manipulation. Breaking free from the cycle of chasing emotionally detached partners requires a fundamental shift in awareness. Many men find themselves trapped in a pattern where they mistake unpredictability for love, effort for progress, and emotional detachment for high value. This cycle is not just about the person they are pursuing, it is about the internal conditioning that makes them crave relationships that leave them feeling uncertain and unfulfilled. Until this pattern is recognized for what it is, it will continue to repeat, leading to frustration, emotional exhaustion, and disappointment. The key to breaking free is awareness. An understanding that real connection is not built on scarcity, but on mutual emotional investment. One of the most important realizations in this process is that attraction is often driven by psychological triggers rather than genuine compatibility. When a woman is emotionally distant or unpredictable, the brain assigns her a higher value, not because she is inherently more desirable, but because her affection is perceived as rare. This illusion of exclusivity creates a sense of urgency, making men believe they must win her over. But in reality, true attraction should not be based on how difficult someone is to attain. It should be based on emotional alignment, shared values, and a natural sense of ease between two people. When men begin to see this dynamic clearly, they can start to recognize when they are being drawn in by psychological conditioning rather than genuine connection. Another crucial step in breaking the cycle is understanding the role of dopamine. The brain releases dopamine not when love is received, but in the pursuit of it. This is why men often become addicted to the chase, mistaking the high of uncertainty for emotional depth. However, a relationship built on unpredictability is not a sign of passion, it is a sign of emotional manipulation, whether intentional or not. Recognizing this allows men to step back and ask themselves whether they are truly happy in the dynamic or just addicted to the emotional roller coaster. A healthy relationship should not feel like a game of chance, where validation is given at random intervals. It should feel stable, secure, and fulfilling. Ego also plays a significant role in keeping men stuck in these cycles. Many see emotionally unavailable women as a challenge, believing that if they try hard enough, they can be the exception, the one who breaks through. But this belief is rooted in ego, not love. True connection does not require proving one's worth or convincing someone to reciprocate. It happens naturally when both individuals are equally invested. Letting go of the need to win someone over is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of emotional maturity. When a man realizes that his value does not depend on whether he can earn someone's affection, he becomes free to pursue relationships that are genuinely reciprocal. The final and most important step in breaking the cycle is shifting focus towards self-worth and emotional fulfillment. Many men chase emotionally detached partners because deep down they equate love with struggle. If love has always been conditional or difficult in their past experiences, they subconsciously seek the same dynamic in their relationships. But love should not feel like something that must be earned. It should be freely given. The moment a man realizes that he deserves a relationship where he does not have to fight for basic emotional connection, everything changes. Awareness is the foundation of transformation. When a man becomes conscious of the patterns driving his attraction, he gains the power to make different choices. Instead of being drawn to relationships that leave him feeling anxious and uncertain, he can seek those that bring peace, emotional safety, and mutual respect. The shift from addiction to genuine connection does not happen overnight, but it begins with one simple realization: love should not be a struggle. When a man internalizes this truth, he stops chasing what is unattainable and starts embracing relationships where he is valued, respected, and loved without conditions. True connection is not built on struggle, unpredictability, or the need to prove one's worth. The cycle of chasing emotionally detached partners is driven by illusion, mistaking effort for progress and scarcity for value. Breaking free requires awareness, self-respect, and the understanding that love should not be earned through persistence, but given freely. Real relationships thrive on mutual investment, emotional security, and reciprocity. The real power lies not in chasing what is unattainable, but in choosing what nurtures and fulfills. So the next time you find yourself chasing someone who keeps running away, ask yourself, is it really love, or is it just the chase? Because the answer will change everything.